The default movement speed in Minecraft with no effects and no special setups is about 4.3 meters per second. But what if we try to go faster? What's the real speed limit in vanilla with no mods and no cheats? In this video, we'll break down every way to move quicker, from the simple, obvious tricks to the ones that practically bend Minecraft's movement rules. Step by step, we'll move from plain sprinting to methods that push the game engine to its limits. And today, we'll find out the true maximum speed you can actually reach in Minecraft. As you already know, the standard player speed in Minecraft is about 4.3 meters per second. But let's see how we can go faster. The first thing that comes to mind is simply holding down control. Pretty basic, but it works. Sprinting bumps your speed up to 5.6 meters per second. Kinda boring though, right? Okay, let's take it a step further. Add a potion of swiftness, and now we're moving at around 9 meters per second. Combine that with sprint jumping, and we can push it to about 9.3 meters per second. Not bad, but still nowhere near the real limit. Now it's time to bring in soul speed boots. In survival, the maximum you can get is level 3, which puts your speed at about 9 meters per second. Even if we crank the effect all the way up to level 6, technically breaking our vanilla rules, you'd only hit around 10.9 meters per second. No wow factor, no records, just nothing at all. And that's about it for basic movement on foot. From here, we switch to entities, or in simple terms, anything you can ride. Animals, boats, and minecarts. Let's start with the boat. Put it on ice, and the speed shoots up to around 73 meters per second. Now that's starting to sound exciting. By comparison, a minecart tops out at just 8 meters per second. Kinda disappointing, right? Since we're already talking about rideable entities, let's quickly run through the animals: pigs, striders, and horses. You can see their speeds on screen right now, but we won't spend much time here. Let's be honest, none of these are serious contenders for the title of fastest transport in Minecraft. Next, let's look at swimming. Under normal conditions, a player moves underwater at about 2 meters per second, pretty underwhelming. But here's where things get interesting. If we stack multiple effects, Dolphin's Grace, Depth Strider 3, and Soul Speed 3 on Soul Soil underwater, and then swim at about a 45-degree angle while holding forward, strafe, and sprint all at once, the player can reach speeds of up to 147 meters per second. That's the current record for fastest player movement. I won't break down all the mechanics here, but if you're curious, I'll leave a link in the description to a step-by-step video. As impressive as that last method is, it has one major drawback. It only works in a straight line from point A to point B. But what we really want is a way to move anywhere. And that's where elytra come in. With fireworks, you can fly at around 70 to 80 meters per second. This is easily the most popular fast travel method in the game, and it's the one nearly every player relies on. But there's an even crazier option. If you enchant a trident with Riptide and wait for rain, you can blast off at speeds of over 400 meters per second. Sounds awesome, right? Well, not so fast. First, rain in Minecraft isn't exactly common. And second, it doesn't cover the entire world at once. The moment you leave the biome where it's raining, the whole setup falls apart. So yeah, it's powerful, but definitely not what you'd call practical. The Ender Pearl trick gets us to about 25 meters per second. Decent, but still far from record-breaking. There's also a more extreme method that redstone players came up with about 6 years ago. A contraption capable of launching a player at speeds of around 1,760,000 meters per second. It's not the most practical or well-known technique, but the raw numbers are absolutely insane. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to dive into the details, but even without fully understanding the mechanics, it's hard not to be impressed. And that just about wraps up all the legit ways to move fast in Minecraft. So, if there are legit ways to move fast, does that mean there are illegit ones too? Well, sort of. The next method I'd call semi-legal. It doesn't rely on cheats, mods, or any outside software. Instead, it takes advantage of a loophole hidden in the game's own code. But before we dive into how it works, we first need to understand what player movement actually is from the game's perspective. For us as players, it all looks natural. Your character walks, pushes off the ground with their feet just like in real life. But if we dig a little deeper, this seemingly simple mechanic turns out to be a lot more complex. Let's start with the concept of a tick. You might have heard the term before, but what does it actually mean? A tick is the basic unit of game time that all of Minecraft's mechanics are built on. Put simply, it's the pause between each cycle of the game updating the world. And this happens exactly 20 times per second, so 20 ticks every second. Think of the Minecraft server as the game's heartbeat. It beats at a steady rhythm 20 times a second. And with every beat, the server checks everything, where blocks are placed, what mobs are doing, and of course where the players are. When you press the forward key, your computer doesn't actually move the character smoothly like it would in real life. Instead, it sends the server a command. The player wants to move forward. The server receives that signal and on the next tick does something simple. It takes your current coordinates, adds a tiny step in the direction you're moving, and instantly updates your position. This process repeats constantly, 20 times every second. In reality, your character isn't walking at all, but teleporting forward in tiny increments each tick. The steps are so small and happen so fast that to the human eye, it all blends together into smooth walking or running animation. So we finally reached the main trick for fast movement, and this one's really interesting. Meet the double join exploit. I'll leave a detailed explanation in the description if you want to dive deeper. In simple terms, this is a bug that lets you connect to two different servers at the same time using a single client. And by doing that, you can actually transfer your player's state between those servers. This works on all local and public servers from versions 1.8 to 1.17. But there's a little trick I'll share later that makes it possible to pull off on any server in any version of Minecraft. So how does it actually work in practice? To pull this trick off, we'll need two Minecraft clients, both on the same version. And just to be clear, that means two different accounts, so you'll have two separate usernames logged into the game. For convenience, let's call these windows A and B. In window B, we create a new world and immediately open it to LAN. Next, we launch ngrok, a service that helps us create a local server. There are other tools you could use, but I like ngrok because it's simple and straightforward. Once the world is open to LAN, the game gives us a 5-digit port. We take that port and type the command ngrok tcp our port. This generates a new server address which we then copy and add to the server list in window A. Now comes the fun part. In window A, join the server using the left-click plus enter combo. It might not work on the first try, so keep attempting a few times. If everything's set up correctly, you'll notice something unusual on screen. That means it's almost working. Next, disconnect and rejoin the server the normal way. If the player list now shows 3 players, congratulations, the exploit worked. At this point, you can close the server in window A and jump onto any other server, or even a single-player world. The trick is that now any commands you enter in window B will also apply to your main game in window A. But there's a catch. For example, if you type game mode creative, the mode technically changes, but the game still treats you as if you're in survival. That means you won't be able to place or break blocks, but you can fly. Important, most servers can detect this kind of activity. In the best case, you just won't be able to take off. In the worst case, you'll get banned. So use this method carefully. But for our method, flying isn't the goal. What we're really after is teleportation. Of course, it's not that simple. Every Minecraft server has a parameter called move too quickly. Its job is to check if a player is moving too fast. Basically, it's an anti-speed hack measure that alerts the admins if someone might be cheating. And this is exactly the parameter we're going to take advantage of. Most Minecraft servers run on the paper build. By default, the move too quickly parameter is set to 10. That means in a single tick, you can move a maximum of 10 blocks. Converted to speed, that's about 200 meters per second. On Fabric, things get a lot more interesting. By default, the move too quickly parameter isn't set to 10 blocks, but to 10 chunks. In other words, instead of teleporting 10 blocks per tick, you can jump up to 160 blocks in a single tick. That translates to roughly 3,200 meters per second. It sounds impressive, but this is mostly just theory. In practice, to reach that kind of speed, you'd need to send a teleport command 20 times per second, once every 50 milliseconds. Technically possible, but doing it manually is basically impossible. Sure, you could use external programs to automate it, but that would already cross the line of our no cheats rule. And even if we stay within the rules, there's another problem. The server would have to handle an enormous stream of teleport requests. That requires serious computing power, and running such a heavy server simply isn't practical. So in reality, this method remains more of a fascinating theory than a usable trick. So what about single player? Here it's even simpler. There are no limits at all, which means we can teleport any distance we want. As you probably know, Minecraft's world border is set at 60 million blocks. That means the maximum possible speed in single player without mods or cheats would be 60 million blocks per tick, or about 1.2 billion blocks per second. If we compare that to the real world, speeds like this would cause some bizarre effects. Time could slow down or even run backwards. In theory, you might arrive at your destination before you even set off, but that's a story for another time. And before I forget, there's actually a way to use the double join exploit on any version of Minecraft. For that, you'll need something called a Minecraft VPN. With it, you can connect to any server from any version of the game. I've used this myself, and honestly, it's super straightforward. You'll figure out how it works right away.